Hello, everyone. Hello. Sorry for being a couple minutes late. I had to restart my computer because my camera was mysteriously not working. Anyway, it all looked great and then it wasn't. How is everyone? Happy Tuesday evening. We are going to talk about stress, and there are a lot of more people than normal that are getting on for this topic. So it is something that is obviously important right now and very relevant to all of our lives. So glad to see all of you. If you don't do much on YouTube, there is a live chat that goes along with this stream where I can see you asking me questions. So if you type in, if it's not already easily seen on your screen, if you go where it says like save video, share, all that kind of things, there should be a button that says chat or live chat. And then you can type in, it's just a Google sign in. So you can sign in with your Google account and you don't have to make a YouTube account or have a YouTube account at all. They're all connected, right? So you just have to get to Google. So love to see you all here today, and we are going to talk about stress. We lost a few people, which could be accidental or not. So let me give them a second to get back on, and we will get started. I feel like I've been talking for a week straight, so my throat, hopefully my voice will keep strong. Okay, let's talk about stress. The thing I want to start about with stress is that we need to discuss what is stress, right? A lot of us think of stress as something that is emotionally or mentally stressful, right? You had stress at work. Today was a stressful day. That is definitely a form of stress, but there are many other forms of stress. Stress happens when our bodies are a certain temperature, too hot or too cold. Stress is when you are sick. Stress is if there is smoke in the air and you have to breathe it in long periods of time. Stress is if you travel. Stress is if you change time zones, especially significant time zone changes, where your body has to be balanced, rebalanced, reorient. Anything that your body is out of homeostasis and then needs to get back in. Hello. Oh, Saturday was stressful. I'm glad it's a good day for you to take a stress class. So anything that your body gets out of homeostasis, which is just a nice, solid state of being, and has to get back into homeostasis, that requires extra nutrition, extra resources than does sitting in a perfectly homeostatic place, which is a maintenance place, right? Stress also can be toxins in our body. Stress can be detoxing, causing toxins to process through. Doing a liver cleanse can be stressful, right? So hopefully you get the idea that anything that again gets our body out of homeostasis, where the body has to rebalance, more difficulty than the normal kind of maintenance, that is stressful. When we have short-term stress and we are fairly well eaten or resourced, I've decided I think I need to do this class of standing because it's just the end of the day and there's no one to talk to except a computer screen. Hello, computer screen. No, last time we had lots of chat going on and that was super helpful for me to stay reminded that there are real people watching this. So what is stress? Stress, what happens when stress comes in our body? Sorry. Reading my notes and I just read it out loud. When stress is in our body, it depends on what the stress is as to what our resources need. And the length of stress depends on what kind of impact that has on our body as well. So if a stress is very short term, if we have even a decent amount of resources, you eat decently well, for example, you are going to have enough resources to get your body through that stress without really even noticing it. The body comes over here and it brings itself back to homeostasis in the middle again. If stress and when stress becomes more and more long-term, it's going to be more significant to get the body back in or to pull it back as often as possible to maintain a homeostatic place as opposed to being in a stressful or out of balance place. So, sorry, I really only start yawning when we start talking. With that stress, with that pulling back, with the lengthening and lengthening and lengthening of time, certain nutrients, specifically certain ones, which we're going to talk about, will often get quite depleted quite quickly, potentially. Let's talk about nutrients and having enough nutrients in our body. So if you have nutrients in your body, how did they get there? They got there because you ate them or your body produced them. There are a lot of things our body produces. Obviously, we don't make something out of nothing, so there has to be some kind of initial building block. For example, I'm looking up at my hormone cascade right here. Cholesterol makes progesterone, pregnenolone, progesterone, cortisol, aldosterone, DHEA sulfate, and etc., and etc. You have to have cholesterol to make all those things. We don't eat estrogen in general, and especially not on purpose mostly, but we do want to eat enough cholesterol to be able to make the things that we need to have proper hormone balancing. We need iron to make red blood cells, right? So we have all of these different things that either need to come directly from food or indirectly from food, or there are a few things that our body, in quotation marks, makes. That quotation mark body is actually not us, but our flora. Our flora can produce vitamins and minerals for us as well. In some ways, they're definitely producing from an input. I need to remember to breathe. They're putting in from an input to an output. So something is coming in that allows them to then output something else. That input to output, however, does not require our energetic input. It is done in the little, oh, hello. I'm glad you are yawning and happy doing this class. I'm really not bored of you guys. Sorry, so input and output from the microbiome, but there is input, but the energy to create that change of whatever is being inputted and outputted doesn't have to come from our own ATP, so it is not an energy drain on our bodies. It is in some ways a nutrition drain because we do have to eat those things, or in some way they have to be supplied to that particular flora. But a lot of our flora produces things like B vitamins, vitamin K2. Those are two things that primarily should not actually come from our food. We should feed our flora and they produce those things for us. That's the healthy, balanced way actually to get that. And what's really awesome is most of our flora, when it's strong and healthy, can actually live on what is more a byproduct or not waste product, but an extra for us. So the indigestible fiber that doesn't really do you any good at all does your gut flora a lot of good. And they can eat that. They can, that's a prebiotic, an indigestible fiber. They will get stronger, and they also need certain nutrients in certain amounts as well, but in smaller amounts because they're smaller. Okay, so we want to feed our flora. We want to feed our bodies. What are the right things to feed? So let's talk about normal and balanced, a place of maintenance that we are in first, and then we can contrast that what happens when our bodies are in stress. So we have a certain requirement every day, depending on what's going on, what temperature it is outside, what season it is, because we also cyclically handle life in a cyclical way, just like everything else in nature does. All of that is going to determine what our need is. There are going to be minor stressors, but not really ones that we may even notice. Today, your liver needs to regenerate 25% of their cells. So a lot of the proteins that you eat today go to the liver. And then tomorrow, your skin has to repair that scratch you got when you were cutting up the meat that you ate yesterday. And you have to repair that over the next couple of days, right? So there's a constant maintenance that our body has to do because we get hit by toxins all the time in our body. We get solar radiation, which also has benefit, right? But there's breakdown from many different things. All the time, our body has a balance of catabolic and anabolic activity. Catabolic is to tear things down. This is thinking of a cat knock things off the table, right? So catabolic that gets torn down. Anabolic is A, the prefix A is about creation or generation or beginning. So A is anabolic, building things up. Okay, catabolic, anabolic. We have a balance every day. When we have more anabolic creation than catabolic teardown, we go forward with health. And when we have more catabolic damage than anabolic repair and building, we go forward in dishealth. So these are major guiding principles. Oftentimes when we do our healing journey, we will get pretty even. And then maybe one day you're a little bit better and one day you're a little bit worse, but this is our good days and bad days. People who are super healthy and strong don't really have good days and bad days, right? Not like those of us who have struggled with our health. We understand that phraseology. So catabolic, anabolic balance, we are going to want a margin where our anabolic buildup is much higher than our catabolic teardown. And this margin right here is your margin to deal with stress, any kind of imbalancing, or things coming at you in life. If you're living right here, or definitely if you're living here, stress is just going to make things a lot worse. And you're going to notice it a lot more if your body is depleted, not able to do as much anabolic activity because you don't have as much nutrition for whatever reason, than if someone who has a ton of nutrition, surplus nutrition, right? Surplus nutrition for their needs of essential needs for their body. So they have this huge margin. So you can get several things. You go work out really hard, run a marathon in the altitude and drink a beer, and you still haven't reached the margin where you wake up feeling like you were hit by a truck. Whereas people who have a margin like this or like this, they will even like take a sip of brandy one night because they wanted to try it, and they wake up the next day and it takes them 2 days to recover to get back to balance because it was so stressful for their liver, right? So when we think about stress and stressfulness, that is an important concept we have to talk about. Another important concept is, what do I mean in terms of stress on your organ or overwhelmed organs? I use this phraseology a lot, and what I mean is for the task that organ is asked to do, they are not provided with, or enough resources are not available to them to do said task. So if your liver is asked to process 20 units of toxins and it only has enough food or energy or resources to process 15 units of toxins, it's going to be overwhelmed. It's going to try to get it done, and it's not going to complete its job, which means it's going to affect other parts of the body. So that is what we want to be thinking about as we walk into stress. Great. So before stress, what do? We want to have a well-resourced body. That is, of course, the best thing to do. How do we have a well-resourced body? One, we have to eat the right foods. You have to stop eating crap food, and you have to eat food for nutrition. Delicious, amazing, beautiful food that provides your body with things that make you feel full and satiated and happy and content. A lot of the foods that we eat and become addicted to in our society are full of sugar or quick carbs that will give a high, which is its own happiness, right? But it doesn't last very long, so you have to take another hit. Also, be aware that all commercial food production companies have scientists hired to specifically have food legal ingredients that are addictive so that you continue to eat their particular brand of corn chips, for example. That is in play when we eat processed food. So just know that. There also is very little nutrition. We were taught calories in equals calories out. That is it's not a lie. It's just not how it works. Calories in does do things, and you can burn calories by exercising, but it's not that simple. Be great if it was, but it's not. What is happening with food? We have an input of the resources our body needs in the form of minerals and vitamins to output what we need to do. And that is doing actions, building, creating, moving our bodies. And it's also going and producing things, producing hormones, producing offspring, right? Producing creativity, producing strength, producing warmth for our bodies to stay warm, right? All those things happen because the resources came in, it gets distributed to all the things in your body, and then there's an output of energy, output of productivity that happens. It's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing. I love it. When we just think of calories in, calories out, two things happen. One, we miss nutrition completely because we're only counting calories, and we fully miss on the things that actually, allow for output as opposed to fat storage. Then the second thing is we miss the beautiful complexity of being able to partner with our body, to be in a strong place of productivity, of strength. I want to say of development. I'm not sure why I want to say that word, but there's this beautiful thing that we can do that outputs an amazing resource, things that only you can do. So we want to do that, right? So that takes a lot of practicing. So before, if possible, any stressful event happens, we would be learning about food, eating what our body needs, getting our digestive system actually digesting the delicious and nutritious food we are eating, right? So we're going to work on all of that before said stressful event that we're going to talk about. That allows our body to have resourced things. Now, there's two forms of resourced things. Number one, we have storage for certain vitamins and minerals. We want to be as stored as possible, right? You want the store barns full before the famine hits or the winter comes. So we want our store barns full. Not all vitamins, for example, water-soluble vitamins are storable to that extent. So some things like fat-soluble vitamins, which is why it's so vital to life, can be stored. That's why our life depends on fat-soluble vitamins much more than water-soluble in general, because they can be stored and you can bridge gaps where you're missing out on nutritional things. The second thing we can do is to be resourced is to make sure that the water-soluble vitamins and other things that you may not have access to, there's no demand already waiting. What if you have 20 work orders to fill for vitamin C, and all of a sudden your vitamin C supply is cut off or really low? Well, now you're having to fight an infection and you have 20 work orders of vitamin C need to fill, right? So there's going to be a lot of under-resourced. So if everything in your body is as healthy and rebuilt and rejuvenated and strong and full and robust as possible, even if you can't store that water-soluble vitamin like vitamin C, you can borrow it from your body and it's not going to be such a drastic hit. And then, of course, we want to store up things that are storable as much as possible, like fat-soluble vitamins. And vitamin A stores in our liver, for example. We can store quite a bit of vitamin A in our liver if we have enough to do all the work orders and we have some extra left over today. The body will store it. Same thing tomorrow, body will store it, and we can now build up a stronghold of that. Okay, great. What happens when stress comes? Stress comes and it will eat up certain vitamins and minerals in general. And then depending on what the stressful thing is, it will eat up other more specific vitamins and minerals specifically. Let's talk first about what are stressful events. So as I wrote in the description, stressful events are not just stress, but they are, work stress or home stress or I'm a mom stress, which are real stressors. But there also are things like physical illness, running a marathon, running a 5K, running a mile, right? Getting sore, lifting weights, staying up all night, drinking a whole bunch of alcohol one night, going camping, being cold, being hot, flying on a plane, changing time zones. There's so many things, again, that pull our body out of homeostasis, and we have to get our body back. Those are all stressors. Depending on whose responsibility it is to pull your body back into homeostasis is what organs get stressed, and therefore what vitamins or minerals are going to be needed to relieve the stressed organ or to fill up and again resource that stressed organ. Our ultimate goal would be for when stressful things come, we actually equal the extra need with extra food or nutrition so that there's no net loss in the storage capacities of the body. Makes sense? That would be totally ideal, right? So if we can do that, that would be great. So when you are in a stressful time, you would want to eat the things that are really important to those things. Current event example. A lot of you have, I'm sure, heard about the lack of sense of taste that happens with this current virus, right? Where does that come in? So a zinc deficiency creates a loss of taste. A severe zinc deficiency definitely creates a loss of all taste. If you have a more mild zinc deficiency, you may lose your taste for red meat. It becomes more difficult to digest for your stomach acid and all sorts of problems. Anyone have a guess where we're going with this? So people who have had COVID and are still not recovered their sense of taste, I look at that and highly suspect that they are severely zinc deficient, and they have become really zinc deficient now. And that is why they still don't have a sense of taste, because they're not eating zinc foods. What are zinc foods? Oysters, molasses, liver, like who eats those things except natural people on purpose, right? Even natural people don't necessarily eat those things without being on purpose. So when you don't have enough zinc, egg yolks, runny egg yolks have zinc in them too. So when you don't have those things, of course, it's going to take forever to get the tiny little speck of zinc that you get from eating that zucchini or that kale. Like there are minerals in our soil. There are very few minerals in our soil because of our current and recent farming practices. And so the hope for someone to catch up on something like zinc from the RDA supplemented for their breakfast cereal fortification that's going to take a really long time. Okay, so that is what we need to be aware of, and that's what I'm constantly thinking of as we walk forward in things that happen to our body. Let me emphasize again, literally anything that pulls your body out of homeostasis will require an increased input of resources to your body to maintain your current nutritional status. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. B vitamins are another huge one that gets used up all the time. The list of depletion of B vitamins is stress, medications, sugar, caffeine, simple carbohydrates. There's one other one. Mold toxins are huge. Parasite infection, huge sucker of vitamin B. They use up the resource. When I say sucker, it uses it real quick. And then you are left deficient. What happens when you have a B vitamin deficiency? You can become clumsy. You start getting heart symptoms, palpitations, skipped beats, flutters, things like that. You get ridges in your fingernails, your tongue hurts, your liver is undernourished. Now detoxification goes bad because your liver can't do its job because it's stressed. It's undernourished and under-resourced for the job that it's asked to do. You may not have had a toxic increase load necessarily, but if you were B vitamin deficient for some reason, now your liver can't handle its normal workload. So this is why stress is so incredibly harmful to our bodies. If we cannot re-resource the body properly. Because it's not just that, I have a vitamin B deficiency. None of us understand that. When I learned in school, even in nursing school, but definitely not in grade school, when you learn about vitamins, you're like, cool, we need this to make our body strong. Great. Can we talk a little bit more about that? We need vitamins to do specific tasks in our body. We need specific vitamins more in some organs than others for them to function properly. So the liver really needs zinc, iron, vitamin A, vitamin B. The liver needs a lot, but that's kind of some of the main ones. Our lungs need vitamin A and vitamin C, fat, and minerals. So if you have a lung stressor because you got bronchitis or pneumonia, you better believe your A and C and minerals and cholesterol are tanked. And during your illness, you want to eat as much of that as possible. And after your illness, for months, you're going to need to catch up. assuming that, especially if it took you 2 weeks to recover, you were probably a bit deficient, and you are definitely deficient now. So there is cool charts, and I'm happy to share anytime, or you can look these up, but there are cool charts that have what vitamins go with which organs. These are from Sienna Process. You can get this on Saline River Press. Saline River Press. There you go. It might be backwards, but there you go. Saline River Press has this as an MRA quick points guide. That is pretty cool chart. It has per organ system. It has Chinese medicine stuff in it, like the Chinese medicine clock. What spine processes are out if you have these problems, what emotions are there, and what muscles can be affected, and what nutrition happens is needed with each one. So that's where I have learned a lot of my things, is charts like that. Interestingly enough, the adrenals, which of course you were waiting for me to talk about, we got 25, almost 26 minutes in before I even said the word adrenal. Everyone thinks adrenal stress. Yes, but it's not about adrenals. It's about nutrition. If the body doesn't feel malnourished, then stress is not a problem. That is why there are times where you have faced very stressful times in your life, or a very stressful situation, and you left maybe a little tired, like you needed to eat something or take a nap, but you weren't left feeling completely run down and depleted. That's because your body was completely resourced to deal with whatever happened, and it was able to deal with it, and it still had enough to, do your normal functioning. That is where we want to be. There is a really important thing to feed your adrenal glands, because they are going to run the cortisol response system. And just like any other organ and any other person, if we are undernourished and short on sleep, things are going to be more stressful than that same thing if you were well nourished and had eaten enough. Right? So when we look at undernourished, under-resourced, overwhelmed, stressed organs, like the adrenal organ, what is happening? Somewhere along the line, it did not get enough resources to deal with life. So it puts itself on high alert. This is especially difficult or problematic in our bodies when the adrenals put us on high alert, because the adrenals are in charge of saying, it's stressful, everyone be on alert, panic, up your production, whatever. Right? So the adrenal response of releasing cortisol actually makes the whole body be in a stressed response. This is always going to happen every time there is a stressful event. But if increased cortisol will always happen, but if the adrenal is undernourished, it will overreact more likely, or panic. Think about what you do. You snap at your kid because you're tired, not because it actually was that big of a deal that they told you that they have a book report due tomorrow, right? The reason that you snapped is not because you aren't capable of helping them and walking them through the tasks that they have to do because you passed second grade a long time ago. The reason why you snapped is because you are feeling under-resourced for doing the task, because you were just trying to make it through till bedtime because it was a long day. So when we have an under-resourced adrenal gland, it will respond with a stressed out signal to the rest of the body, which will then increase their stress, and resources will then actually get used up faster. This is really difficult, and this comes to play in a huge way when we are in our world, which is a world of chronic stress. In the old times, you're walking along, minding your own business, and a tiger comes, and you have to run away from the tiger. That is a very clear stressor that lasts a short amount of time, and then you either get eaten or you get away. The tiger eventually leaves, and you then walk along, minding your own business, with no more stress because your husband killed the tiger. Right? So that is where we want to be in terms of interacting, and our body is very adept at doing that, especially when we're nourishing it decently well. However, when we have a tiger that doesn't actually exist, but you're constantly afraid that it might eat you, but it never does, so there's nothing to turn off the tiger's gone now, so you just keep perpetuating in stress. When this happens, and because this happens, we then become undernourished. So now all the organs are stressed, and they themselves are actually producing the stress signals because they're like, I'm not going to be okay. If something comes my way, I won't be able to handle it. It's not okay, right? And the whole system ramps itself up. That ramping up uses nutrition a lot faster than if we were in a place of rest. It also does not allow us to digest our food or repair our bodies as well. So major problems when we have stress. We now can't absorb food. We don't focus on repair because we have to run away from the tiger, but the tiger doesn't exist, and we just keep using our resources to be ready to run the second it shows up, but it never does for weeks and months and years. Any wonder why we're in the problem we are? Hey, it makes perfect and total sense what we're doing and why it's happening. Okay. So long-term stress is incredibly damaging to our bodies. And how do we start reversing it? There's two major things for us to do. Number one, we have to refeed our body. You are probably in a during stress event right now, because we all are, because it's an election year. We're all in, whatever you fall on whatever side, we're all stressed. It doesn't matter what your view is, we're all stressed, right? So we're all stressed, and we need to be resourcing our bodies well. What is the resources for the adrenal glands? Vitamins A, C, minerals out the wazoo, and cholesterol as much as you can handle. I eat about, right now, with my work stress, just growing a business and thinking as much as I am and keeping up with being a busy practice, which is absolutely lovely. Stress is not always bad, right? It just is a thing you have to acknowledge. So that amount of demand on my body, I have to keep up. My brain needs a ton of cholesterol and vitamin B. That's what the brain needs, is the vitamin, nutrition, and then minerals. What's the mineral for the brain? I think it's zinc. I can't remember. Selenium definitely is in there. There's a few I think that the brain needs. Let's see if it's on my list. Okay, so we need some, so fat, minerals, nervous system things, which is going to be minerals. It doesn't say specifically on there. Omega-3, so fatty acids, fat, cholesterol, blah, blah, blah. We need tons of fat. So right now, because of that, I eat approximately, I'm hitting about a tub of sour cream, a 16 ounce, probably 12 to 16 ounces of sour cream a day. Usually around half a stick of butter and at least 2 eggs. I put some tallow in some things that sometimes can replace butter. And what else am I eating? Those are things that count as fat. I'm also eating some cheese and meat and things like that. They don't count as fat. Those are proteins. I feel like there's one other fat. I take cod liver oil. That's a very dense fat. I recommend, this is on my desk because when my brain stops working, I take some cod liver oil. I take 3, and usually within 20 minutes, I notice a difference in my brain processing. So that is great. I usually take 3 a day, which is a to medium dose. Anyways, I'm eating tons of fat. I'm eating minerals. I am eating protein. My protein needs are actually lower right now because I'm not physically hurting my body. I don't need to rebuild as much. So there's times of my life, like on gaps, where I ate way more protein than I do now. Now I have a more balanced protein vegetable kind of ratio. Some simple carbohydrates, because I do have good flora that I want to feed with that indigestible fiber. So that's really helpful and important. Meat stock is an incredibly dense food. You're just getting fast-acting amino acids that your body can use instantaneously as soon as they're absorbed. And there's no work of absorption. So we want to eat tons of things. Vitamin C you get from sauerkraut. I eat a lot of sauerkraut. Vitamin A you get from cod liver oil and animal fats. And then minerals you want to get from really good salts. My opinion right now is everyone in the world probably should be on Baja Gold sea salt. Or something very similar, which I haven't found, BAJA Gold Salt. You can go to their website. Not a sponsor, probably should be of this video, but they are going to super help out because that salt in particular is very high in potassium, magnesium, sulfur, and calcium, which are the things get used up really quick when you are stressed. salt your food with it, be in your salt shaker, and then lick some salt off your hand through the day as you're feeling stressed. Iodine is also super helpful. There are other things like Standard Process has Minchex, Mintran, or organically bound minerals. Those are the calming mineral complexes from food as well. So that's an option as well to do. See which one your body likes or which one makes sense based on the description of what it's used for. Each one has a little different variant. Some are better if you need to really calm down, or some are better if you just have problems falling asleep, for example. Okay, so minerals, fat, vitamins A, vitamin C. You just have to do a lot of it. Other sources of vitamin C, there are more. Cherry powder, for example, camu powder. You want to make sure it's food sourced, of course, because your body doesn't know how to do with the nourishment of fake foods. Stop eating them. I know I'm on a strong soapbox, but I don't care. I'm done. Stop eating fake foods. Stop paying money for them. They don't work. Whatever the lab promises you about how amazing they are, there is an energetic component to food, and if you destroy that or try to create it, it's not going to work as well. You just have to get it from food. Okay. Or food supplements like Standard Process, cod liver oil, desiccated liver. Right? There are convenient packaging of it, but don't buy fake stuff. Okay. Don't buy fake food either. If you do decide you want to go get pizza and a beer, and your body's anabolic catabolic balance can handle it, then do it. Don't think you're eating nutrition, but you can have fun. That's okay. The body is able to deal with the stress of pizza and a beer in the terms of that it makes it work harder, and you can be, if you're well-resourced, in the enjoyment of how delicious pizza and a beer is. You don't have to be guilty about that when you are providing for your body nourishment most of the time, for it to do something fun. Eat a piece of cake at your niece's birthday party. Like those things, if you have the resources to handle them, should be enjoyable and should not be a big deal. Not as a common thing all the time, right? But as an occasion to be present in relationship, which also resources us, right? It's not all about just nutrition, just being perfect. It's not a full and complete balanced picture of our bodies. We're way more complicated than that. Okay, I'm soapboxing all the time. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Fight or flight. The other thing we can do. So number one, we eat good food before, during, and after. So classic example and how I really understood this. I got sick 3 years ago. Really sick. Sickest I've ever been, truly. There are reasons why I think I got so sick. I think my body was doing a healing reaction. I always have had sore throat things, and it got really sick. My throat got really sick. I did lots of things. We recovered. It was great. I have had a stronger immune-wise in my throat since then. So I think the body did heal and repair and kick something out that had been living there probably for years. So I was really glad for that. But it took a lot of resources to do that. Not in the least of which because I couldn't really eat. I didn't want to eat. And so I lost 10 or 15 pounds. I can't remember. A lot of pounds, which were full of toxins. So then my whole body got slammed by toxins. My liver, which was somewhat recovered, but debatably not recovered enough to handle that amount of toxins, got slammed with toxins. In the processing of that, there were some nutrients that I did not catch up on or keep up with in relation to demand, meeting the demand need. One of those very clear ones later is vitamin C. Vitamin C, of course, we use for inflammation and immune system function, but vitamin C is also important in maintaining strong blood vessels, strong mucous membranes, leaky gut, keeping the leaky gut, getting those junctions closed, having double jointedness, having a hyperextensive joint is also going to be, vitamin C is the strength. It's a strengthening rebar in all of your connective tissue, which Pat is excited about. So that, it also is in your gums. Where I noticed it about 6 months later is my teeth started moving. my gums started receding and my teeth started pulling forward and crowding, worse than they ever had before. I went to my different resources, tried to figure out what's going on, found an answer fairly quickly, and that answer is you used up all your vitamin C, and now I found out that gums moving is a vitamin C deficiency, and someone helped me put together the idea that I used it all up, and it created a long-term other additional problem. So now I have to eat a lot of vitamin C because I am catching up. I was behind before, I'm sure, because I've been a GAPS person my whole life. I didn't absorb food very well. I've had chronic inflammation. My cholesterol when I was 15 or 16 was like close to 300. Like I have had awful inflammation for most of my life until I started eating differently and found gaps and really started healing, which is great. I'm very healed and very strong now, but there's still some deficiencies like vitamin C that I play on the edge of. Some of it because I don't do extra on purpose things. I'm a person too. I don't do extra on the purpose things really faithfully. I eat a lot of sauerkraut pretty faithfully, which is a great source of C. But I don't take a vitamin C additional supplement where I probably should just because I was so and am still a bit behind. Now, I do know, and because stress, right? I'm running a business and I'm thinking a lot and I need to be on for my job all the time. So that takes a lot of vitamin C to do that. So I need to be doing that. I have a maintenance of a pretty balanced, but I'm probably not catching up at a very fast pace just because of the ratios of what I'm using to what I'm eating. When I get in really stressful situations or get a bit sick, it's very interesting because I have a cavity right at the gum line. And when I am stressed, I will start a certain amount. I will start having that gum recede and I will start having problems with that tooth. And then if I start eating more vitamin C, the gum comes back up a little bit and covers that trouble spot. And then my tooth pain stops and I don't have any problems. So that has never happened before that illness a few years ago. And it's kind of my vital sign of like, oop, I need more vitamin C. It would be great. And actually must be eating more vitamin C recently because I haven't had issues with that in probably a month. So we're doing good. Okay. So that's an example of under-resourced, and there's long-term effects when you really got low on something. You had an incredibly either long stressor or intense stressor. I was only really sick for about a week and fairly sick. It took me a month to recover. It's the longest I've ever been sick. But that really used up my resources, and I'm still replenishing those because there's other demands at the same time. Okay. The other thing that we can do is help our nervous system and our hormone system be out of fight or flight. So parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, and sympathetic, which is fight or flight or freeze. Those are the two balancing systems. They're both needed. One's like a brake and one's like an accelerator. You need brakes and you need accelerators, right? You don't need only one of them. It doesn't work, right? You need both. So neither sympathetic or parasympathetic is better or worse than the other, but they need to be happening in balance. The reason why sympathetic gets thrown under the bus all the time is because the tiger doesn't exist and we never can stop that stressor in our life that is kind of hanging out in the background. Stressors, again, don't just have to be an actual event or an actual perceived event. Stressors also can be bright flashing lights, screen time with artificial colors. Those are also stressful to our brain. They send stress signals to our brain. So you may actually be super relaxed at home, but watching an animated film that actually is creating stress in your body as well to some degree. So just be aware of that little side tidbit. Okay, what am I going to say? Getting out of fight or flight. So one way to get out of fight or flight is eat foods so that our organs are like, oh, I can handle it. And then they stop freaking out about things that aren't happening because they say, when it comes at me, I will be able to handle it. Number 2, you do counseling or emotional work so that you look at things and go, I don't know what's going to happen in the world, but I can handle it. I have my resources, I have God, I have, whatever it is, but you know that when things come at you, it's going to be okay. You're going to be able to handle it. You're going to be able to deal with it and process it and be fine. So well-resourced in terms of food, well-resourced and kind of programmed, if you will. You've thought through the processes so that you are not sitting in a place of reactive fear, but you have done enough emotional work that you know what, I don't know that I'm always going to know what to do, but I know I'll be able to know who to ask or to do something or to, you're going to be able to respond. The other thing is on the other physical side would be doing things that stimulate your vagal nerve. So deep abdominal breathing, straw breathing, in through your nose, in through your nose, out through your mouth, but going right, like you're breathing through a straw. That will calm your nervous system down. In a few breaths, I can already feel much calmer. Doing essential oils, frankincense, cedarwood, sandalwood, cypress, any kind of sap or tree grounding blends. Balance is a really nice one. So fir trees, any kind of tree, any kind of like frankincense is a sap, myrrh is a sap. Like those types of things are going to be in general, your grounding blends, and you can just look up what they are. Those stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system to be more on top, to be more a player in the game, right? We don't want it to be super imbalanced either. You want them to both be available, responding to different situations, because in the span of an hour, even in a pretty chill environment, you're going to have places where you're eating lunch, you want your parasympathetic to be involved, and then you get up half an hour later and go back to work, and you go into a meeting with your boss. You want to be on point. You want your brain to be thinking, right? That's a sympathetic, a little bit more sympathetic dominance in that moment as opposed to parasympathetic when you're eating and digesting your food. So they're both good. You want to support both. And when your body is in balance, you're going to be able to, and here's the really good news. When your body is in balance, you'll be able to walk forward and be less stressed, which means your resource using up is going to be slower. If you are well nourished, when you get to that point of being nourished enough where you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to be able to handle it. It'll be okay. We have enough resources to deal with it. Then you don't get as stressed, and then your resources don't get used up as fast, and you're able to then store more resources and be even stronger of a place. So it's totally worth it, even in our stressful world, to be on the journey to do this, not just to maintain your health or be afraid of crashing, going to what people describe as adrenal fatigue and exhaustion, which is a description of symptoms, not an actual diagnosis, but it's fine. So going into something where you crash, where you get really sick, right? Your immune system crashes, your thyroid crashes, your adrenals crash, your liver crashes, your brain crashes. I've been in many of those, actually. It's just about being under-resourced. And when we can strengthen all of those, they're going to then allow the others to be strengthened. Because if your liver is not slacking, but it's under-resourced, so it has not finishing its job, the lungs are going to actually take over some of that workload. And the kidneys and the bladder and the skin are going to take some of that workload. Well, now we're hurting more organs, and we're going to now eventually need more resources to repair those organs. So number one, again, we want to be nourished so that when stress comes at us, it's fine. Number two, most of us have been in a place where we are undernourished because of the product of our lives and everything. And we want to catch up as quickly as possible. And this is another reason why doing the GAPS diet and just nutrient-dense foods, Weston A. Price is fine too. Carbohydrates are not evil, especially when they're soaked grains, and you are in a place where that's okay for your body. It's really great to do grains. They can be incredibly nourishing. in different situations. So we want to do real food in a real way that helps our bodies. And that's what I'm just so passionate about, obviously, talking. And yeah, so there you go. Anyone have any questions? I'm to the end of my notes of what I wanted to say. I'll kind of listen. I'll wait for your questions and see. Let me just review real quick if there's anything else I want to say. Nope, I think that was pretty good. So let me know if you have any questions. If you want to support our continued education or any kind of education, we do have a donate button that I will link below when we're done, or you can go to bewellclinic.net/events, and then there's a donate button that just comes to us to support our educational endeavors that we don't get paid for otherwise in any other way. It helps us to continue to do that, but no pressure. Please share this. Please like the video. Please share this video. Well, you can listen to it again, Debbie. This actually is recorded, and as soon as I get off of it, it will, within a couple of minutes, it will post to the YouTube channel, and you can watch it again and pause it to do it there. So I'm glad that that was helpful and useful to you. I hope it was. Okay. Well, thanks for hanging out for the last 50 minutes, and it was really great to be with all of you. And that's it, I think. I can't think of anything else. I think we've left enough time for questions. Again, you can, if you're just coming at the end, you can if you're typing in a question, just type wait really quick. You can watch this on replay. You can also comment, and I will see that and eventually answer if you are watching this at a later time than right now in live. So wonderful to be with you all. Have a lovely evening. I am teaching a class on Saturday, vaccine evidence, different non-emotional presentation of evidence. That is a Zoom link, so if you're interested in that, please email the office and we can give you that link. We don't record those for reasons, but we would love to have as many people on there as possible. And that is all. Have a great night, everyone, and we will see you next time. In 2 weeks, we are also teaching about understanding addictions, some of the physical as well as emotional aspects, and how do you help yourself or to understand why a loved one and to make suggestions potentially for them to be able to walk out of an addiction. So we will talk about that then. All right, have a good night, everyone. Bye.